We're going on the record? We're on the record.
Council agenda, Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, regular Township Council meeting of April 16th, 2019.
Posting of notice. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Law by filing the notice in the Office of Township Clerk and by posting the meeting notice on the bulletin board at the Municipal Building on December 19th, 2018, where it has remained posted since that date. The legal notice appeared in the Daily Record and the North Star Ledger on December 27, 2018, and was forwarded by fax to other local newspapers and local radio stations on December 19, 2018. Council meetings are videotaped and aired on Public Access Channel 21 at 7 p.m. Sundays and Wednesdays, and are also available for viewing at www.parsippany.net.
Please rise for flag salute. Mrs. Peterson, if you will.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. DePiero?
Here.
Ms. Grignani?
Present.
Ms. McCarthy?
Here.
Ms. Peterson?
Here.
Mr. Carriffy?
Here.
Also in attendance are Mayor Michael Soriano, Business Administrator Keith Kasmark, CFO Ann Cucci, Jim Lott, who will be here in just a few minutes, and Colette Madden, Township Clerk. Council President, we have a quorum. You may begin.
Thank you. Upcoming meetings, May 7th, 2019 at 7 p.m. Agenda meeting, and the next meeting after that would be May 14th at 7 p.m. regular meeting.
Correct. That was a typo. I apologize.
Approval of minutes, agenda meeting March 5th, 2019, agenda meeting April 2nd, 2019. Motion to approve the above minutes.
Second.
So motion made by Mr. Carriffy, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call. Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, presentations, reports. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Council President. It is my pleasure to inform you and the township that the New Jersey Department of Transportation, the Office of Local Aid, has given us a grant of $392,000, okay, to help the road safety at Green Bank Road, which for those of you that take that road regularly know that it is in desperate need of repair. So I certainly love it when we can repair our township roads and have it not come out of the municipal budget. So that's always a good thing. So, and next I have a presentation. I'm going to have to come down for this. For those of you that know, well, Khalid? For those that are involved in the volunteer community here in Parsippany, you may know Karen DeChristopher, who asked me to write this proclamation. She could not be here this evening. She just lost her husband, Ralph. Very kind and gentle, loving man. And he will be missed by this township as well as Karen. So we lament him and mourn his passing. In his stead, Carol DeTisi and Frank Cahill are going to accept. Oh, no, it's just Carol. Okay.
No, some of the committee.
Oh, good. Oh, I didn't realize the Relay for Life committee was here as well. Come on up, please. Yay, that's good. Come right here, actually. No, they want to be the videographer, so, you know, there you go. Come on up, Loretta. Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills Proclamation. Whereas cancer is a group of diseases characterized by uncontrolled growth and spread of abnormal cells, which, if not controlled, can result in premature death. And whereas Relay for Life is a signature event of the American Cancer Society, whose mission is to raise funds to improve cancer survival, decrease the incidence of cancer, and improve the quality of life to cancer patients and their caregivers. And whereas at Relay for Life events, communities in the United States and across the globe come together to raise funds to help make a difference in the fight against cancer. And whereas the Morris County area residents will be joining 4 million people in over 5,000 communities throughout the United States in organizing Relay for Life events to celebrate cancer survivors and remember loved ones who are no longer with us, and to raise much-needed funds for the American Cancer Society's research grants and programs to find cures and provide community and patient support to help those undergoing treatment. And now, therefore, I, Michael Soriano, Mayor of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, do hereby proclaim that I support the American Cancer Society's Relay for Life programs and encourage all residents to participate in Relay for Life event scheduled for Saturday, May 18th, 2019 at the Parsippany Hills High School from 4 to 11 p.m. to celebrate cancer survivors and remember loved ones who no longer are with us, and to help in raising funds to make a difference in the fight against cancer. Together we will find a cure. Dated this 16th day of April, 2019. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Sure. Mr. Council President, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay. Township Attorney, Mr. Lott.
Wait, I have one thing for council. Sorry. I would like to nominate Pat Delafuente to the remaining open position on the Environmental Committee, please.
Second.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, so this is for, just give me 1 second, just for my minutes. Environmental Committee. We have a nomination by Ms. Peterson. She nominated Ms. Pat Delafuente. Ms. Peterson, by any chance, do you have her address and information?
She is in the audience and can
Fantastic,
provide
so
that.
I'll get that from you. So we have a nomination by Ms. Peterson, a second by Ms. McCarthy. So we're going to go into a roll call for the nomination of Ms. Pat Delafuente to the Environmental Committee. Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Ms. Grignani,
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy.
Yes.
Congratulations, Ms. Delafuente. That's
Thank
it for
you.
Township
That's
Council.
all for me. Thank you.
Mr. Lott.
I have 3 matters for closed session tonight as indicated on the agenda.
Thank you. Business Administrator, Mr. Casmore.
Thank you, Council President. The only thing I have tonight is the final budget is before the council under item 6 on the agenda. Pleased to report that we received back feedback from the state with approval from the Department of Community Affairs, Local Government Services on the final budget, including the budget amendments that Ms. Cucci and I were directed to make for consideration this evening.
Thank you. Township Clerk, Mr. Madden.
No report at this time, Council President. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Township offices, committees, Mrs. Grignani, you had
Yes,
something?
the daycare center will be having a rummage sale on April the 27th. That's a Saturday, from 9 to 2 p.m. There will be articles of clothing, children's articles, carriages, so forth and so on. And if you have any articles, I'm sure you could still bring some in. This is a fundraiser that is very much needed for the daycare center. So if you can attend, or if you can bring in any items, I'm sure it will be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. DePiero.
Okay, this is Knoll Country Club Advisory Committee appointments. I need to preface before I go into any of those. This ordinance for the Knoll Advisory Committee, the existing ordinance, provides for the mayor to make 12 appointments to the committee with the advice and consent of the council. Now, the mayor made these appointments, and he does not have the advice and consent of the council. We'll take a vote on each one of these, but he does not have it. When I realized he was not going to honor the agreement that I thought he and I had, I tried calling him 4 times. I called his office to try to relay to him. I don't want this committee to become an adversarial position. I wanted it to be a joint operation that will work in the best interest of the Knoll Country Club. So when I was trying to reach the mayor, what I was proposing was a compromise. All of the existing advisory committees in the township, except this one, have mayoral appointments and council appointments. This is the only one that has strictly mayoral appointments, but it's with advice and consent of the council. So I was trying to reach the mayor to offer a compromise. The compromise would be that we'd draft a new ordinance, and the new ordinance would have the mayor making 6 appointments and the council making 6 appointments, which is consistent with all of the other advisory committees that we have in the township. But I couldn't reach him, so I relayed an email to our township attorney asking him to draft an ordinance and to cover that with the mayor so we would be in agreement. Despite that, the mayor has made appointments to the committee, which we do not agree with, and it's no reflection on those that he's trying to appoint. But 3 of those names are sitting on the committee today. So there's no reason not to approve them. They're already sitting on the committee. So I guess we need to go through these one at a time. The first name is Kevin Brancato. Motion to approve by myself.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call, Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Ms. Grignani,
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy,
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, now the next, I'm not going to make a motion to approve the next 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, because they're not sitting on the committee now. I'm only approving the ones that are sitting on the committee now. So the next one, item I, is Ron Orthwine. I make a motion to approve him.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call, Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Ms. Grignani,
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy.
Yes.
Motion passes.
And the third one is Davy Willens. I make a motion to approve him.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call, Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Ms. Grignani,
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Now, there is an ordinance on the agenda that we will get to later that will create a new Knoll Advisory Committee where the mayor makes 6 appointments and the council makes 6 appointments. Until that ordinance gets introduced tonight and gets a second reading, 6 weeks later?
Yeah.
6 weeks later, we only have a 4-member committee, the 3 that were just appointed, and myself, who is a council appointment. As some of you may know, there's a council liaison to these advisory committees, or a voting member in some cases. But the mayor is an ex officio member of all committees, so he does not have to get appointed. He's an ex officio member of all committees. I'm done.
Can I ask what your objections are to the people listed here?
I don't have any objections to the people listed here. I have objections to the people that are being dumped. All of the members of the Knoll Advisory Committee are very knowledgeable golfers, have played in courses all over the world, love the Knoll, want the Knoll to prosper, and have dedicated many, many years of their time to do what they felt was best for the Knoll Country Club. They're being dropped. That's what I objected to.
Mr. Council President, may I?
Good.
Councilman, First off, you and I sat down and we talked about this 2 weeks ago. And I basically acquiesced to you and said, fine, I will reappoint all of your members that you want of the Knoll Golf Committee. That's correct, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. That was a Wednesday, I believe. And then I believe that Monday you started calling. The last phone call you made was a week after, and you were trying to get me on the phone again, and it was to go over something we already went over that I said I would do. And I'm saying it right here on the record. I said I would reappoint all those members. But then,
Well, Mayor,
ma'am, I did not interrupt you.
It would've been
Please
nice
do
if
not
you
interrupt
returned
me.
my
When I'm
call.
done, you may speak, okay?
Okay.
I appreciate that. So, once that was that Wednesday phone call you then made, you left a message with my staff, a voice message, verbally, and you said, well, if the mayor doesn't get this done by today, the end of day, then I will just make the decision for him. And that you inferred that you were going to completely take the power and the authority away from the mayoralty. Keeping in mind that you were present when this ordinance was first drafted. You were there when the ordinance was created to give the power entirely to the mayor. And many mayors have sat here in this council chamber and have made the appointments that they felt that they needed to make, and you were fine with it all the way through. But because I did not act as quickly as you wanted me to, because I didn't want to return a phone call that I knew was going to be about what we just talked about, because every minute of my day I try to make as productive as possible. On that Wednesday, when that threat came through, I started reevaluating, changing my mind, if you will, or as you called it, lying. I did not lie to you. I had a change of heart, thanks to you and your overreach and your grab for power. My change of heart was this: there is no compromise. The compromise is what I wanted, which is what the mayoralty allows. So I reappointed 3 members of the Knoll Golf Committee that were already there. I thoroughly looked through every member there, and you're right, there were some good people there that have a lot of vast golfing experience. But since I am the mayor, I should have the opportunity to have the Knoll Golf Committee go in a direction that I would like it to. But even I know that I didn't want 12 people that had never been on the golf committee before. I wanted 3 strong hands that could guide them and that could have a sense of institutional knowledge. And I was actually hoping that one of those 3 would actually be chair of that committee. But with your overreach, it had me rethinking about you, your position on the Knoll Golf Committee, how long you have been there, that you've always been the council liaison, and the control that you have over it. One thing that very, very concerns me is how everything is focused on the Knoll West, which is a very important part of our Knoll golf utility, but is not the end-all and be-all. There is the Knoll East, which needs a lot of TLC. And some of the members that and you're correct, I shouldn't have appointed them, I should have told them I nominated them. Some of the members that I nominated golf at the East regularly. One of them, I believe, was the Knoll East golf champion. These are men and women that know the sport, that love the sport, and love the Knoll. So, apologies to you that I wanted to try to go in another direction, that I wanted to go into a vision that I wanted. And certainly, Michael, there is no way that I would push aside your recommendations, because you know that golf course better than anyone. Why do you think I wrote a resolution to name properly the driving range after you? It's because of the respect I have for you and how much I know you love the sport and love the Knoll. But Michael, taking the power away from the mayoralty after it's been there for so long, it just won't impact my stay here as mayor. It'll impact others, and you should really reconsider it. Thank you.
All right, now it's my turn. If you had returned any of my phone calls, which, by the way, is a disrespect when I reach out to you so many times and you don't return my call, you would have found out that I had changed my mind. I was not looking to take over the committee completely from with the council. I was looking for the compromise. All of the other advisory committees had some appointed by the mayor and some appointed by the council. So all I was trying to do when I was trying to reach out to you was to tell you that rather than have the council appoint all of the members, I would rather compromise and have both of us, council and mayor, make appointments to the committee like they do all the other advisory committees.
You should have done that when you first created it.
I was trying to reach out to you and tell you that, but you didn't give me the courtesy of returning a phone call. So instead, I sent an email to our township attorney explaining what I wanted to do and requesting that he draft it this way so that both of us have appointments to make, and not just the mayor and not just the council. I was trying to be fair.
Fair was not the message you left on my voicemail that Wednesday, Michael. It was a threat.
That was after 4 phone calls that you did not return.
That was a threat.
And
Thank you, Council President.
And your inference is wrong. The threat was that I was going to do this compromise ordinance.
Again, taking the power away from the mayoralty.
Half of the power away.
All right, bids taken, April 4th, supplying various materials for the municipal utilities and public works. To be taken, April 18th, paper leaf bags, quotations, proposals, qualifications, April 11th, fireworks display services. This time, I'll entertain a motion to open up the public hearing.
Motion?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call, Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Ms. Grignani,
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy.
Yes.
Floor is open to the public.
Okay, if you do come up, please state your name and address. You'll be given 5 minutes.
Council President, you may just want to clarify that there'll be a separate budget hearing tonight.
Yes.
So if
okay.
anybody has comments on the budget, they may want to hold their remarks until the second second
Yes.
public hearing.
Okay, so if you have any comments in reference to the budget, we will have a separate open public for the budget.
Nicholas Homiak, Lake Hiawatha. On an old golf course, I made comments before. I think it's a public utility, but the public is never invited to any of these meetings. And it's not only about golf, like I said, it's about landscape management. So that pond that was filled in with the basalt stone that could have been beautified with plants, flowers, made the golf course even nicer. And we've been talking about a plastic ban. I'm sorry I missed that meeting here, but I couldn't make it. But that should be a simple thing to accomplish right at the Knoll utility. Ban those plastic cups, the plastic mixers, the styrofoam, and as much unnecessary plastic waste as you can, because that stuff's all over the landscape there. You go policing that stuff up, and it's it's quite impactful. So
Yeah.
I think that
The cups could be biodegradable, you're right.
they're not biodegradable, they're plastic.
We could replace them with biodegradable.
Right, and it shouldn't be that hard of a task because it's a public utility. And in the future, long after I'm gone and you're gone, the Knoll might have to convert back to a forest or something, because even though it was gotten for Green Acres money, that couldn't happen now, and I found out it is eligible for conversion, but that's the future. But the public should be allowed to have more input that what goes on there, because we do get to enjoy it during the winter months. At least we could walk around there. So I'd like you to consider that.
Good evening. Robert Stroop, 79 Nokomis Avenue, Lake Hiawatha, New Jersey. Last week I had sent an email to each of the council members and to you, Mayor, through the Mayor's Action Center. Before I go much further, thank you very much, Mrs. Graniati. Thank you very much, Mr. DiPiero, for taking your time to come out and take a look at the property. I'm going to pass out some pictures. They were the same ones that were in the email. There's 2 sets, they're both identical. As well as, if you could pass this down, this is some of the information on the businesses. What I came up here to complain about and to make mention is that, being that I live on Nokomis Avenue, the business behind me on Beverwick Road in spring of 2016 paved their parking lot. That's all good and well. They're allowed to improve their properties, but they included no provisions for drainage, which is my main concern. And there is also no privacy now. They've raised their parking lot to an extent that you can easily look over the fence into my yard. Also, there are no barriers to keep cars from driving straight through that fence. It's just a chain link fence, very fragile. If you go along several of the other businesses along Beverwick Road, particularly the people that are downhill, they all have a barrier or like a berm of soil to protect from that. So that was in 2016, and I called up the Township Building Department to make mention of this. No permit was filed to pave their parking lot. I went through various township departments. I was passed on from one to another, at which point I came to a council meeting in fall of 2016 to bring this up. I was told that it would be worked on. It's been 3 years. Nothing's changed. We find this to be rather astonishing that somebody would break township law, construct without a permit, and the township would sort of turn a blind eye to it. Now, I am aware that that is under the administration of the previous mayor. If this administration could look into it, it'd be much appreciated. I should also make mention, it is an absentee landlord. I have largely kept from bothering the tenants of their buildings. My gripe is not with them, with the landlord. He's refused to return my calls, also letters. The only way anybody was able to get in touch with him was to send him a certified letter. So he sounds like a real winner. Is there anything I can do to help? I understand that you guys are planning maybe a redo of Beverwick Road. Certainly very well due at this point. This might be a great time to try to get him or her to comply. Before I go, there's a few things I wish to talk about of positive nature. Early budget this year. You guys are flying right along. Good job. Much better than last year. Health Department, particularly Joanna Bernal, huge thumbs up. She's a problem solver. She's took care of a dumpster that was on that property in a very unique manner, and it was beneficial to the businesses as well as all the residents, and not just me, but nearly every business along Beverwick Road. Garbage pickups has been perfect, so thumbs up there, nice. And thank you for beginning to turn Parsippany into a no-kill animal shelter. As a animal owner, that means a lot, so thank you. Could we please work on my problem, but it overall denotes a problem that most people along Beverwick Road face.
Just 1 minute.
It really needs a hug. The streetscape is falling apart. There are spots where the telephone poles have been replaced, and there's just a pile of bricks next to them. Needs to be worked on. Thank you very much for your time. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Through you, Council President.
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Strupp.
You can keep them, of course. All right, thank you.
Mr. Strupp, my office will reach out to you tomorrow, and we'll facilitate a meeting with the requisite staff to try to make sure that everything was done appropriately, and if not, or if there are drainage issues that linger, which by the pictures it appears to be, that we can in turn address those through the appropriate departments.
Fantastic. May I have a sidebar with you after the meeting?
I'll give you my card
Fantastic.
after the meeting. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My name is Bob Venezia. I live at 102 Brooklawn Drive. As outlined in a recent presentation by Ed Snikes, Parsippany now has a plan for meeting its affordable housing obligation. The first project in this 8,000 plus unit plan, and I'm including affordables and market units, was the recently approved project at 1515 Route 10. Before the remainder of the projects get underway, it's important for the council to take steps to protect the taxpayers of Parsippany by making sure that the mistakes that were made on the 1515 project are not repeated. Townships are at a distinct disadvantage when negotiating a payment in lieu of taxes or pilot agreement. Every clause in the pilot is drafted by the developer for the benefit of the developer. If you have any doubt of that, just recall the instance where Parsippany wanted to include some wording that would provide financial protection if educational costs exceeded predicted levels. The proposal was dismissed immediately by the simple statement that developers are unwilling to take on risks. It's also important to understand that projects governed by pilots do not contribute to the ratables of a township. This characteristic has significant drawbacks for the taxpayers. For example, a township receives far less in taxes under a pilot than it would receive under the standard taxation method involving ratables. In the case of the 1515 pilot, that tax reduction is in the neighborhood of $2 million annually. Ratables decrease the tax rate for everybody. In contrast, pilots do not decrease the tax rate because they do not count as ratables. None of the pilot revenue is allocated to schools, open space fund, or interest and principal payments on bonds issued by the township. And the affordable housing units associated with a pilot expire after 30 years. You've got to do it all over again. It's a long time, but some of your children or grandchildren are going to be here. Whereas if the apartment complex was a conventionally taxed rateable, the affordable units would be permanent. By the end of the public discussion on the project at 1515 Route 10, pitfalls such as the ones listed above were uncovered, and it became apparent that the taxpayers of Parsippany would take a financial beating if the agreement was approved. When the vote came up, every member of the council expressed their dislike for the pilot. However, because of the affordable housing component of the project and the threat of a lawsuit from the developer, 4 of the 5 members reluctantly voted in favor of the agreement. I'm sure that other developers have taken note of the highly favorable pilot that was awarded to Stanbury and will look to procure the same type of arrangement for their projects. Parsippany taxpayers need to be protected from developers looking to use a pilot agreement as a weapon to maximize their profits. So the council must take steps now to ensure that such tax giveaways are never granted again. I am proposing that this can be accomplished by passing an ordinance that would prohibit the Township of Parsippany from entering into a pilot agreement with any project that contains residential units.
1 minute.
I would now like to hear your thoughts about this proposal.
Well, my question
If the
would
lawyers
be,
allows you to do that.
Is that possible to do that? Can you just eliminate?
I don't think it would be appropriate to be done by ordinance. You may have the power to be able to do it by resolution as a sense to the council that there will not be any other pilots going forward.
With residential, you can do it for, I have no problem with commercial.
That's up to council.
Okay.
I don't believe that we could bind future councils to such an arrangement. Although I agree with the concept, I don't think we can bind future councils. What I would, well, we've been assured that if any of the other developers want a pilot, that we are in safe ground and that we can say no to all future pilots.
Right. As I said before, I don't think it's an appropriate subject matter for an ordinance, but, council is certainly free to pass a resolution that provides guidance as to when or when it will not, have the ability to grant an abatement.
Resolution is just guidance. They don't have to.
Correct.
follow it.
That's right.
All right,
Out
then
of
we have a
curiosity,
resolution.
Do you have a sense of how many developers have asked for a pilot since Stanberry?
Since we started developing the housing plan, the COA housing plan, just about every developer asked for a pilot. And we said no. We said no. Okay? Stanberry, we were not in a position to say no because the township said yes years ago. So as a township, we had to keep going forward with it. We did renegotiate the agreement with Stanberry to get the percentage that we were getting back on the pilot. I believe it's started at about 5 or 6%. I think it's up to about 11%, because I told them I want to be able to include the Board of Education on the pilot going forward. So in spirit, I agree with you. I do. I don't know if, as said, if we can bind future councils to the same ruling, but right now I will tell you that we're basically on the same page, that pilots are not something that we want to be in the business of giving out for residential.
Right.
But we're going to take each one on a case-to-case basis and bring it to the community and do it open.
And the statutory framework that allows the municipality to grant a pilot, or it expressly recognizes that it's ultimately a decision of the governing body. Okay. So, and then those decisions should be made on a case-by-case basis. So if the governing body wants to grant a pilot, they have the legal authority to do so. If they wish not to,
for example,
they also have the authority
what
not
about
to
a
do so.
pilot that was related to residential for disabled seniors, or not including any children, or something for elderly veterans? That's something I want to at least contemplate. But pilots, when it comes to family units, that's something we're very cautious about. We're not too open to that, and we've said no many times.
Keep in mind, the history behind this is we had two buildings on that property. The Dialogic building and
Intel.
Intel, right.
That were vacant for more than 10 years. Rotting, not producing any revenue, and were vacant. And no businesses in all those years came forward to renovate the buildings or to do anything else with them. So our township planner at the time defined that as an area in need of redevelopment, and that was approved by the planning board as an area in need of redevelopment, and that's how that came about.
Primarily because I think the planning board and the governing body at that time recognized, as was just said, that the property had suffered a prolonged vacancy and the buildings were in poor condition and determined to be functionally obsolete and probably not going to be reused for their original single-tenant office purpose.
Which actually might be the greater cause of frustration here, is that a landowner can allow their property to fall into disrepair in order to make the claim that it's an area in need of disrepair. So that's another tension point for us to deal with, that there's no ordinance that prohibits that behavior.
And that's a good point, too. I agree with that.
Yeah, but there's nothing that requires even a building in need of redevelopment to get a pilot, with a developer to get a pilot on that property.
In order, well, you have to meet certain criteria for a pilot. And that criteria, the area needed for redevelopment, was one of the items of
Correct.
a list that's needed to satisfy that. And the township planner and the planning board agreed with that list, that it met all of the criteria.
But they didn't agree with the pilot, right? They have no.
Well, that's not the responsibility of the planning
planning
board.
board,
No.
right.
Right, I mean,
So
you
that-
know,
that was
the
a
decision to grant the pilot was a decision of council. The statute requires a but-for finding, which is, but for the offer of the pilot, there would be no redevelopment.
In other words, Mr. Venezia, we hear you.
Okay, I'm just worried that we gave one,
We got your
It's a
time.
5-minute
All right.
limit.
You had
that's
10
it.
seconds.
and they're gonna use it as a precedent, and they're gonna, and
We are
they're
on.
gonna, they're gonna go to
All
the
right.
courts and say.
There
hey,
is no precedent. Each application for a pilot rests on its own merits.
Well, if they go into court,
Mr.
it's
Venezia.
up to a judge, and I don't trust them. So I'm trying to give you cover here.
You're right not to trust them.
First of all, Keith, I'm sorry, Mr. Shoup, but
Wait, please state your name and address.
James Griffey, Parsippany. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, so I apologize. If you could reach out to me maybe tomorrow, I have a gentleman that's of Indian descent that doesn't speak too good English, that's got the same issue as him. So I'd like to give you his information so you can contact him, and maybe you could set up the same thing that you just said you're going to do with him.
Absolutely.
Everything that I'm about to say is either testified to or documented in paperwork that I have right here, and I don't anticipate any questions, but again, as I said to you last time I was up here, when did you know about it? What did you do once you found out about it? The police department issued computer flash drives, about 100 of them, to the officers at the police department. Prior to April 1st, 2013, approximately 36 of those officers retired. Not one of them submitted their flash drive upon retirement back to the township. Not one. 36 of them. On April 1st, 2013, I retired, and the township, as we know, has spent millions of dollars of litigation against me because I didn't return my flash drive. 3 other captains retired after me, and guess how many of them turned theirs in? Your silence speaks volumes. That's how many turned it in. No, not one. And now imagine, this is after I retired. Then, I'm assuming, because Mr. Inglesino was here, and the previous mayor, you said, well, I said there was never a policy, and that's why you probably never came after the other officers, but you came up with one in December of 2014, over a year after I retired. You came up with a policy, and it's very detailed. It's a very good policy. And it says you have to turn in your flash drive. There's a whole specific procedure. So since that policy's been in place, and from 2015 to 2017, 5 officers from different ranks have retired. And guess how many of them turned in their flash drive? Not a one. Even after that 5 officers, and here's the documentation from your police department saying that they didn't do it. They didn't do it. Here's their letter. Anybody wants to see it, I'm more than happy to see it. Even after those 5 officers retire, Paul Phillips, your chief of police, goes to retire. Knowing that this has happened, knowing that he's aware of this letter that I got, that none of these guys have turned it in, he retires. But he thinks he's slick. What he does is he gets 2 flash drives. He doesn't turn in the one, and he says he's lost the other one. Mr. DePiero, he lost the other one. You've been up here with Mr. Inglesino many times saying the public's in danger because all of this police information that's out there that I didn't supposedly return, that's been out there. We're not concerned over the 45 other officers, their flash drives that are out there. And forget about that, the officers may still have them. You got admitted that the chief of police lost his. I got to ask Mr. Lott, now that there is a policy in place, are you opening up the Soriano administration? Because the police department is not complying with these with their policy that says they got to return them? I know you're not going to answer, but somebody's going to be asked that question down the line. Here's the letter that with the chief of police, and not only takes it one step further, Mr. DePiero. He says we can't go after retired guys. He says it right in his letter. But you came after me. So again, my quick questions for you. Again, I don't anticipate any answers, but here they are. Why am I the only one out of at least 45 officers that you initiated civil litigation, criminal investigation, pension hearings, and department investigations against me? And keep in mind, some of these officers who are on this list that didn't turn in their flash drive, you're paying them out right now on their sick, comp, personal, vacation time. But not me. But you're paying all these guys out, 45 of them. And one guy even says he lost it. Even after December of 2014, when the policy about returning the flash drives was created, officers are still not turning them in. And what are you guys doing about it? What are you doing about it? The public's in danger. As you said, I want you to hold these people accountable, Mr. DePiero. Same thing you said about me. What about these 45 other officers?
1 minute.
You have the chief of police stating that he lost his. How in the world can a chief of police lose his and you're still paying him out his information? I'm concerned as a taxpayer. I want to be held accountable, and that's why I want to talk about Aurora real quick. You voted to release the emails between your township council and Aurora. There was thousands of them, I get it. I don't know whether or not you did your due diligence and went through this. I did. Since I only got a minute, I'm going to speed up real quick. You got your township council writes an email to Matthew Ferrante, Aurora. Says, finally, we need to understand what information and records were taken by Carriffy that have not been returned. Please let us know. That's January 24th, 2018 at 4:35. Matthew Ferrante writes back, same date at 4:54. He says, we require a signed authorization, a scope of work. He wants more money. Doesn't say anything about answering the question. Please, just bear with me. January 24th at 9:15 p.m., your council, your township council, writes back, Matt, I don't want to get adversarial with you. You are our expert witness. The township cannot sign a fee agreement with a flat fee floor. And we are also looking at the public contracts law to make sure we are not in violation of same, continuing Aurora's retention. That'll be a question I would ask later at some point. Were you ever in violation of the public contracts law? Then, here's the important sentence. We absolutely need an answer to the question of what documents Carriffy took that have not been returned. Given the amount of work undertaken previously, we assume that this is a question that can be answered immediately. This is a critical component of our case and ongoing discussions regarding this matter with the court and client. These details do not appear in any of your reports.
Time's up.
Nor the correspondence we have forwarded to the Inglesino office. And it goes on and on and on. I just want to know. Why? Why am I the only one? And I appreciate I got to leave, but I will tell you that there's mediation tomorrow, and we ask that one of the council member be there, and none of you guys want to come. Not one. Don't you want to hear what's really going on? That's all I got to say to you. It's 10 o'clock, Judge Harper, former judge. One of you should show up.
So consistent with my prior advice, I'm going to ask that council not answer any questions. The matter is obviously the subject of active litigation between Mr. Carriffy and the township.
Isabella Alfano, 8 New England Drive. I was going to speak about the COA. I'll quickly put in that because that was my main reason for standing. I want to understand the unit formula based on the credits applied. It wasn't really discussed in the presentation. I have screenshots. I just want to understand the difference between like 44 units and the 67 credits. And there's things that jump around like 325 credits to 65. So I just want to know the formula between the affordable housing units and, of course, how much credits the township's going to get to meet their obligation. But since Mr. Carriffy came up, couldn't stop myself. Yes, if there's 45 others, I agree with James Carriffy that if he stole township information about the public, we all should know, and he should be held accountable as long as everyone else, because that's like Hillary Clinton wiping the servers. We swear in police officers and everyone to ensure that our safety is protected and our information is protected. So if there was no due diligence done on your part, then everyone should be accountable, including James. Thank you.
Council President, on the COA question, we should probably put her in touch with Ed Snikes and Leslie London, who can provide a detailed explanation as to how the crediting works. I will tell you that it is incredibly complicated. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, it's
Through
it's
you,
confusing.
Council President, Ms. Alfano, if you send me an email, I'll open up an email chain between yourself, Ed Snikes, and Leslie, and we can get that explanation for you in short order. You're welcome.
Yep.
Thank you. See no one else come forward, entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion?
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Peterson, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call, Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Floor is closed.
Okay, Mr. DePiero?
Ordinance 2019:10, an ordinance of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills in the County of Morris, New Jersey, calendar year 2019, ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank, NJSA 40A:4-45.14. The notice for the ordinance above was published in the Daily Record, the official newspaper of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, on March 25th, 2019. This ordinance was introduced at the March 19th, 2019 regular meeting. Motion to accept that ordinance 2019:10 be heard in its second and final reading by title only.
Second?
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call, Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion to open the public hearing for ordinance 2019:10 only.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call, Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
So the floor is open to speak just on this ordinance only.
Okay, if you do come up, please state your name and address. You'll be given 3 minutes. And this will be on this ordinance only.
Nicholas Homiak, Lake Hiawatha. Hopefully the 13 jobs were not eliminated. And one thing we should ask ourselves is, in this overdeveloped landscape here, is what good are these tax ratables doing Parsippany if for an average homeowner for $4 and I believe 38 cents, and can correct me, for the average homeowner to chip in, that's $52.56 a year to keep Parsippany, the necessary work and the workforce that's necessary to keep this town. And you can't take the 13 jobs just because they're not filled. So it's like an easy target. If there is some dead weight that does need to be eliminated, you can't just assume it's the 13 jobs because they haven't been filled yet. So I think that's very unfair. So for a collective community to chip in less than $5 a month, we're going to put 13 more people and families at a potential for a good job for this municipality. So I hope that has been resolved. And to take it out on a municipal level for this chump change, like I said, you have to see what's around you. Our whole tax system is geared for the rich people, and they don't pay. There's 12 Robert Reich, who used to be a Secretary of the Treasury, and you can find him on Google or Facebook or anything. He could explain all the myths about why the corporations not paying their fair share, the rich not paying their fair share, and they got us going after each other for chump change. So to eliminate 13 jobs for this measly amount of money, I think is very unbecoming to any sense of community, and I hope that it just doesn't occur. And and the tax freeze, oh, you're gonna put the old people out. Well, here, it's not, they call it a tax freeze,
30
but
seconds.
it's a reimbursement. And in 2018, if you're 65 or over, you can make $89,013 a year and get a tax freeze, a reimbursement. So who are you hurting? Who are these people that you're hurting? The rich people? So to be a little less richer for $4.38, oh my goodness. So please don't let it happen.
Good evening, Eric Densmore, Lake Hiawatha. I've been coming to these meetings for a little over a year. And I have to say that I think you're all very well-intentioned people. But I do think that we have to learn to live within our limits. And it's very disturbing to me that people come up here and comment on what others people's financial positions may be. I've lived on all sides of the socioeconomic scale. I know what it's like to have money. I know what it's like to lose it all. Okay? And I would have to say, I don't make any judgments whatsoever. But to some people, a 4.7% tax increase is a lot of money. To some people, it may not be. But I do have a question. That tax freeze for seniors, how many residents are currently using it?
Is that your only question?
That is my only question. Otherwise, again, it just disturbs me that some people get up here, make comments on other people's financial positions, on whether or not they should be taxes, especially when they aren't paying the taxes themselves. Thank you.
Eric, that question, is that just the tax freeze just for seniors, or do you also want the numbers for veterans as well? And veterans' widows? Okay. We'll have it for you for the next meeting.
Thank you.
Seeing no one come forward,
Come forward, entertain a
motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call, Mr. DePiero?
Yes?
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Floor is closed.
Whereas the above ordinance was read in title on second reading and a hearing held thereon, now therefore be it resolved that said ordinance be passed on final reading, and that a notice of final passage of said ordinance be published in the newspaper according to law. Motion to approve the above resolution.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call, Mr. DePiero?
Yes?
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
I just have a clarifying question. This is just establishing the cap bank, not voting on the budget itself, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Yes.
And Ms. Peterson and Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, but, oh, I don't read that. That's somebody else.
Can I ask what the status is on the the additional positions that have been discussed being added back to the 2019 budget?
That's on the letter B.
It's going to be on the budget amendments.
That's the amendments. Okay, thank you.
Public hearing?
Who does that?
This is a public hearing for the budget.
Yeah.
So we had a public hearing already that was just for the general public. This public hearing will be specifically to comment or ask questions pertaining to the budget and only the budget.
I think actually everybody that had a question on the budget already, so.
So we have to open and
We'll
close.
open and
okay.
close.
Open
You have to
and
open and
close
close.
Yeah, so I entertain a motion to open a public hearing on the budget only.
Motion.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Grignani, seconded, motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call, Mr. DePiero?
Yes?
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, See no one come forward, entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
He's coming. Oh.
Nope, he's not.
Motion.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call, Mr. DePiero,
Yes.
Ms. Grignani,
Yes, before I vote on the budget.
We'll wait
we're not
just to
voting right now,
close
just to
the
close the
public
public hearing. Ms.
Yes.
McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Floor is closed. Ms. Peterson, this is where your question would be relevant at the